afternoon, dear friends. So we're going to talk about food and flavors and fragrances and beautiful sights about beauty. By coincidence, a few days ago, I was listening to a presentation by Harvard Medical School professor Elizabeth Freites about the new emerging discipline of lifestyle medicine, where we can receive prescriptions for nutritional and sleep, well-being, social connections. And I was so happy. I said, it's happening. So it's now being recognized that our lifestyle matters and can make us healthier or less. So today I would like to share my experience of using Ayurveda to make our daily lives more delightful, more beautiful, and more healthy. For me, Ayurveda is one of the most ancient, personalized lifestyle healing systems in the world. So it originated in Vedic India about 5,000 years ago, which predates written history. And by the time of Buddha, which is about 500 years AD, it was an ancient practice with much sophistication. And its influence spread west to classical Greek medicine, Hippocrates, and east as well to countries as far as Indonesia, for example, Laos, Thailand. Oh, no, this one. Forward, try that. Okay. Am I holding it right? Okay. Okay. So what am I doing? Oh, yes, well. So, introduce myself now. So I'm Natalia Proops. I live in France, in the countryside, in the Loire Valley. So going back. Okay. Got it. Ayurveda. So the influence spread to ancient Greece and countries such as Indonesia, as I said. So what is actually health? Let's talk about health. So I've got a definition here of health by World Health Organization. So it's a very ambitious definition, obviously. So it's a state of complete physical, mental, and societal well-being, not merely the absence of disease and infirmity. Okay. 5,000 years ago, Ayurveda had its own definition of health, which was eventually translated by sages into written information by sages of 7th century, and later our modern physicians who are interested in integrative healthcare. So this is a phonetic version of what is health. It's actually a beautiful poem. It's beautiful. We had to, in my training, I had to learn it by heart. And obviously it's a translation from Sanskrit, which is a beautiful ancient language like Latin. And I'll do it from bottom up sort of thing. So the last sentence means that this is how health is revealed. And it starts with, in fact, now I go back to the first line. It starts with balanced doshas, which I'm about to talk about. And of course, everything from good elimination, and it may mean our tears, not necessarily the classic channels, our tears, our sweat, but also talks about blissful soul and joyful, blissful soul and mind. So already at that stage. this is how health is revealed. So I can see similarity between World Health Organization and Ayurveda. Okay. No, that's back. Okay. So in fact, the translation of Ayurveda will mean the science of life, Ayus and Veda. So how can we use the principles of Ayurveda in our daily lives now in 2023? I did training, in fact, in the United States of these principles at the Chopra institution, which was founded by two illustrious physicians, Dr. Deepak Chopra, who is by training a neuroendocrinologist and who wrote over 90 books now. So normally if you ask him questions, he'll say, well, I wrote a book about it, so go and read the book. And the late Dr. David Simon, who was neurosurgeon, and he was also author of books such as Wisdom of Healing and 10 Commitments and many other beautiful courses. So in fact, the information which we received when we were trained, and my training started about 20 years ago, and I never stop, it's curated for our life. So that's why I'm going to present sort of how can we use or not these principles to manage our well-being, to manage our self-care, and of course by being the best we possibly can be within our circumstance. We can be better with our clients. There was this concept of limbic resonance, when somebody in the presence of a person who feels good, eventually they'll start feeling better as well. So it's good for everyone around us. No, so I've just mastered it, I think. Okay. So these, the words like space, air, fire, water, and earth, it's in figurative sense. And in fact, according to principles of Ayurveda, they are nature's intelligence codes. For example, space. Yes, it's a space, and it's probably something which is very well known to our interior designers or to architects. It's a potential where everything, vast expanse where everything is contained. So therefore, it's contained in nature, but it's as we are part of nature, it's in our bodies. So you can say, well, that in our bodies it could be space, spaces in our bones, for example, intercellular space, and in our minds. I know one of the purposes of some meditation practices is to reach the gap between our thoughts. So that's sort of space which is supposed to make us really feel better. Eventually we'll come out of meditation. Air, again, that's in a figurative sense, and of course in the concrete sense. It's the force which animates everything that moves. In nature, we can immediately think of wind. And in our body, it will be probably, what can I say, our beating of our heart, or the movement of our breath in and out of breath, nervous impulses. So that's all within this concept of air or movement. I'm actually, if I may, say these beautiful Sanskrit words as I list these elements: space, akasha; air, vayu. They're so beautiful. Fire, Agni, and that's a concept of transformation. So it's a force which generates light, heat, and transformation. So for example, in nature, it could be fire. In our bodies, it would be, for example, our digestive system. So the difference between movement and transformation is that movement, it can change. Transformation, there's no really way back. For example, we can make a cake. So we take all the ingredients and we put flour and sugar, whatever, without gluten or with gluten and sugar. It could be anything else. And so we combine all the ingredients and then we bake the cake, and you can't go back really to individual ingredients. Water, jala, protection. And it's this attractive, protective force, which is in nature and in our body. I can think of, for example, joint fluids, brain fluids as well, liquid which bases our spine. And finally, earth, Prithivi, structure. So in our world also, there is a concept of structure. So we can think of mountains, we can think of rocks, and in our body we can think of muscles and bones. So these are the elements. So already there is a little exercise we can do, because we read everywhere that, it's so good to walk in nature, it's just so balancing and healthy, etc., which is completely true. Next time, if you wish, you walk in nature, just connect with these elements which surround you. If you can, water, well, it's not always possible, but you can touch even a plant pot, for example, for earth. You can look at the sky. And I was amazed how many times when somebody is very stressed, including myself, we forgot to look, those beautiful stars. So this is for space, air, and in nature, what I learned is that potent moments is sunset and sunrise for that. And of course, fire, it can be lighting a candle or anything can do with fire. Okay, still not mastered. I am now obliged to introduce just 4 Sanskrit concepts. So dosha, which was mentioned, definition of health, and then vata, pitta, and kapha. These 3 words which are, in fact, you can write thousands of pages about each concept. So these elements which I've just mentioned, they organize themselves into 3 principles. I'll actually bottom up. Movement, vata, transformation, pitta, and structure, kapha, and they're called doshas. So these words, please. They're used in Ayurveda all the time. So because we're part of nature, we also have all these elements within us, and there are also sorts of mind-body types which can govern how we react to stress, how we digest, how so many things in life. And vata, so that mind-body type. So I don't have time to do questionnaires, but we can define our kind of tendencies throughout life, which is not the same which you may be struggling at this moment. They're different concepts. So mind-body type, something like tendencies you've had. And people, of course, they have all these elements within their beings, but some have a little bit more of, say, vata or pitta or kapha. So vata is air and space, and some have in infinite proportions they can have, for example, I'm a vata kapha. So people who have a little or big predominance of vata in their being, air and space, so they tend to be, let's see if I can go further. I start with kapha, so I go forward a bit, if I may. Yes. Imagine resembling a wind. So it may be a person who maybe have light structure, maybe even have sometimes difficulties gaining weight, and they can have a balanced and unbalanced state. And so it's just like too much of aggravating of that principle of movement. So I immediately think of overthinking. So that's something I was guilty of. So when they are in good shape, they would be creative, spontaneous, and exuberant, good communicators. But when they get too much, then it can go into anxiety, insomnia, overthinking, and bloating, I mean gas, because air and space. So some people will recognize perhaps that. Then I go back. Peter, because it was my training and I practiced it, sometimes without questionnaire I can guess. And then in fact I adjust accordingly, the way I love people, because I may tell you a story in a minute. So fiery by nature. So it's basically the elements are fire and a little bit of water. That's how Ayurveda would describe this particular dosha. So like fire, they're warm and friendly and they have excellent digestion and then they're a good leader. But then there's too much fire, so they may, anything, in fact, in Ayurveda which has red color, they may suggest a little bit of inflammation in the body. So that's why it says skin rashes, inflammation, and they say now one of our afflictions at the moment is chronic inflammation, low-grade inflammation, because I follow so many experts in our body, which may lead to, finally, to illnesses. And they become irritable, so too fiery. Excessively critical is very interesting because it's just that if you shine too light, and I experienced it with vacuum cleaning. So I had once this powerful torch in my place, and when I was vacuuming, I say, oh, I haven't spotted that. So it's just like shining too much light. It's too much, Peter. And people who have this predominance, wonderful people. They are kapha is the structure, and so it's earth and a little bit of water. So therefore, they're steady, they're loyal, they're calm, they're supportive. But then imagine if it's too much. So when they have too much stress in their life accumulating, or any of the lifestyle which they can correct with. I'll talk about it as well. In the body, by food, and in the mind, what works well is the sensory things like fragrances and sights and sounds. So, yes, you can become, as a kapha, I know because I'm pretty much 50% of that, congested. So anything which slows you down. Excess weight, yes, they put it on easier than people who say water constitution, overly protective, over attached. That's when they're out of balance. So you can balance that. So I go forward. So the way you balance the body issues in Ayurveda, which is works well, is through food, what you eat. So I've put here concept we grew up with, and our children grew up with, food pyramid, and in France as well, if you walk into the doctor's surgery, you have food pyramid picture. And of course, there was also Harvard's plate and the My Plate application, which I understand just been discontinued because they couldn't cope with incredible volume of it. How to eat. Which is fantastic, because I know my generation, my mother, father, had no idea how to eat. She thought that if you get hungry, you have a cake. So she had eventually diabetes, type 2 diabetes, but took her years. In Ayurveda, you have a slightly different approach, which I believe you can superimpose, if you wish, to this very valuable concept and make it more personalized. In Ayurveda, it's more intuitive, and they talk about 6 tastes of life. Sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, and astringent. And each one has different effects on our mainly physiology, but also on our mind, because we know about comfort foods, which will make total sense with Ayurveda. So the first taste is actually, it's it's a slight mistranslation, because in Ayurveda, sweet actually doesn't only mean honey, sugar, and sweet things, but it also means the majority of our diet is fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. And the sweet, it is normally the most, perhaps the most, what we eat most, and it brings satisfaction, it's comforting, and then, but it does build body mass. So now I'm following the discussion on how, as we age, not losing muscle is very important to prevent falls, which are very, very dangerous when we age. So it builds body mass. Sour, in Ayurveda, obviously it's a taste of vitality as well. Unless you have heartburn, then you eat less of that or not. So examples will be citrus fruit. It will also be actually pickles and cheeses and yogurts. It all falls into sour food. It helps digestion. So if you have a sluggish appetite, it helps. But on the other hand, if you have heartburn, then you have to be careful until you feel better. Salty, taste of the ocean. So good for our digestion. It's mildly laxative, and it makes other tastes really delicious. So it will be table salt. Now they talk about again that probably have less of table salt, as opposed to, I recently read the rock salt from Himalayas. They say yes, and in France the Celtic salt is we're very proud of it. Bitter, it's what they mean here. It's a taste of green leafy vegetables, broccoli, spinach, foods like this, and they add extra taste, but they also help detoxify the system. Pungent, again, it's a slight vague translation, but it means spicy, fiery foods. So spices, it will be onion and garlic and chili peppers. So they also help to clear nasal passages if you've been to a nice restaurant with spicy food. And they rev up our metabolism. And astringent, normally there are not many foods which are part of this group, and they're very precious because of that. And they compact the system. So people who do detox diets all want to actually reduce their weight, to have these types of three types of food is very helpful. So astringent tea, beans, pomegranate, not that many. Okay. Now I'm going to just back to France, and I'm going to analyze. This is green salad. So we first arrived 20 years ago to France, and I went to the market. It was a total just elation by everyone buying fresh salads of the day, green salads. So if we analyze what it is, so we'll have various salad leaves, bitter, and then with vinaigrette sauce, so it will be vinegar in various oils. Many cooks there mix oils and they mix vinegars as well. They sometimes make their own homemade vinegar. So that will be sweet, sour, and bitter. And Ayurveda says that if you include all 6 tastes, or as many as you can, if it's in one meal, it's fantastic. But even if you do it just within one day, that's pretty good too. So to make it Ayurvedic, you add salt, well, they do anyway, pepper. For fiery stuff, you can chives and onions and shallots, and then it gets more nutritious for our body and more satisfying. Now, so what I'm saying is that to follow Ayurvedic principles when you eat, it can be in any country in the world. It can be any cuisine in the world. So I said, well, what can I show go back to France, and we have leek and potato soup. which originated in France profonde, really in the countryside, and people who worked in the fields, they ate it in winter to keep themselves warm. It's normally leeks, potatoes, cream, and salt. This soup made its way to United States and became a very sophisticated vichyssoise, which is a soup which is cold, and the chef who came from France profonde made this version to Ritz Hotel at the time when Ritz Hotel was in New York. So how would we make this soup Ayurvedically healthy? Okay, so leeks, potatoes, cream, and salt. So shall we try it together? Potatoes, it's a carbohydrate, so it's sweet in Ayurveda. Cream, sweet. So sweet, sweet. Salt is salty. Leeks, when you cook them, when you cook foods, they may a little bit change their properties. It's a little bit spicy, but sort of sweet. So it's mainly sweet, salty, and a little bit pungent, spicy. So what you can do, I always have lemons in the house. So I add lemon juice at the last minute, and then you put, say, dry herbs, pepper, and then it becomes really, so we can count how many tastes there. So salty, sweet, pungent, bitter, sour. So what's missing is astringent. So have a tea if you can, green tea. I think even chamomile tea, which I had here at the end of the meal. Okay, is that. So very quickly, how do you manage it in your daily life? So if you're at the moment facing everything here is wonderfully reversible. If I start with Vata, actually, so if you've dryness, stiffness, anything to do with Vata issues, you eat more of sweet, sour, and salty foods. But it can still be very healthy. And Ayurveda says it's obviously 6 days are the ideal, but you just eat less of the other types of foods. To reduce inflammation, heartburn, irritability, and what you can do on a day-to-day basis, you eat more of sweet, bitter, and astringent food, and less than the spicy, fiery, sour, and salty foods. The reason is because, in fact, I don't have time, but Ayurveda analyzes to the most extraordinary complexity the composition of the foods, and so they also have doshas. That's why you balance it always of the opposite. And kapha, if you excess weight at the moment, congestion, allergies, eventually they do kick in with fluid retention. Then you eat more of these foods, pungent, bitter, and astringent, and less of sweet, sour, salty. But you need everything. That's what they say. And this is a Dostoevsky quote. Just one more minute, if I may. And so it's all about beauty, really. To have beautiful food, you have beautiful sights, beautiful aromas, beautiful touch, and beautiful sounds. And what I'll finish with is aromas, because it's one of my passions, which I discovered yesterday during our exercise of what are you passionate about. You can actually use aromas to feel better if you are overwhelmed, or if you're irritable, or if you're feeling a bit lethargic, with different essential oils or perfumes. And the last thing I would like to share, because it works for me, because it's called neuroassociative conditioning. So if you choose a perfume which you love, and you only use it when you feel a particular feeling like happiness or relaxation, and don't use it otherwise. So eventually just spraying it on yourself will make you feel fantastic. Thank you.